It's Drybear. A patch has finally gone live for Dragon Dogma 2, so let's talk about the implications of it, what's in it, and what we can do now. Dragon Dogma 2 has been a polarizing experience. The fans of Dragon Dogma 1 defending it vehemently, and the people that are coming into Dragon Dogma 2 for the first time are harping on some of the weird choices that have been made by the development team. But the one thing that no one's disagreeing about is the lack of performance, especially in main towns for the game. But with today's update, it seems that a lot of people are getting much better performance in the main towns for the game. A lot of performance changes, bug fixes went live to make the game even better. So if you're someone who was struggling with FPS in the main cities or just in general, check out the game after the new patch went live. But outside of optimization, the main piece, the main nugget in the patch was the addition of the ability to add a new game when you have already started a new file. See, before the patch, you could only create a save, and once you did, you were locked into that save. You couldn't delete it, you couldn't start over. Now on PC, you could go and edit your local files to free up a save slot, but you were essentially trapped in the choice that you had made, especially if you were on console where you couldn't go and change your local files. Now, of course, you could go to the Barbary to change the look of your character and your main pawn with limitations. You couldn't change your race and some things were restricted. And of course, you can change your vocation freely, but it's not quite the same thing. But now after today's patch, you can, even though you've started a save file and you made a run on Dragon Dogma 2, you will have the new game option available to delete your local save file and start again fresh, so you don't have to continue the run if you're not feeling it. Now, the chase for only one save file seems to be staying, at least for the time being, or maybe even forever, as it is kind of the vision for the game that they intended, or at least the director had intended for the game overall. If you're on PC, there are some mods and some third-party options that you can choose to create multiple save files, and essentially what this is doing is creating a file manager. I'll leave some links down below if you want to check it out. Just keep in mind that it is a little shaky, but it's not, if you can get it to work, it definitely is an option for having multiple save files. You can also, again, only if you're on PC, go to your local files, extract out your save files, create backups of them, and then create a new save file, and you can swap those in and out on the fly, so that if you want to have multiple save files, you can. But again, it is a little odd that we don't get to have multiple for that if you want to have multiple characters, which does mean that if you're on console, sorry, you're getting wrecked in this case. Now, keep in mind, I'm not going to spoil the story for the game, but it is something available if you haven't finished the game yet, you're not aware of this. There is a new game plus option in the game. So the way this works, which is a little bit more fair than some games handle this, but you have the option when you complete the game and you finish the story, there's two different styles of endings that you can deal with, and once you get one of them and the game is completed, you'll get the credit roll, and then you'll have the option of creating a new game plus. So when you start a new game, in that case, it will say, hey, we're going to start you brand new, fresh from the start, but would you like to keep your level, items, gear, equipment, vocation, experience, discipline, gold, rift crystals, all of that, and start again from the beginning. Now, when you take this option, it does seem to scale up the world a bit. It doesn't seem like you're, level 60 and everything's level 1. It's not as drastic as that, but again, overall, the game doesn't seem to be that difficult for most people, so it's not like you're going to run into a major challenge when running New Game Plus. And what's cool about this option, you actually get the choice to remake the visuals for your pawn entirely and for your character as well. So when you take this new option, you can inherit all of your experience and progression from the last playthrough into the new playthrough, but you get to recustomize entirely the way your character looks and the way your pawn looks, which is almost like a new game. And since you're in the game and you get to change vocation freely and you get to go to the Barbary, it does give you a lot of options for altering your playthrough when you start a new game and load into that new playthrough. And I stress this for the people that may be out there who are like 80% through of the game and they want to start a new playthrough. They haven't finished yet, but they want to try something new. It may be worth it just to finish out the rest of the game. Just go straight for the main quest, the main scenario, finish that out, start the new game, do New Game Plus. And you can even choose to not inherit it, but it does give you that option to start over once you've completed the game. And in 2024, it still baffles me that we even had to complain and ask for a new game button option to start start over in the game. I get that they want to kind of stress this not multiple save files, major commitment. We'll talk about that in a second, but the idea that you can't delete your save file and start again at all, you have to finish your run to start over at all. The fact that we even had to ask for such a feature is kind of bizarre in this day and age. But let me know what you think about that down below. Now let's talk about the idea of this commitment that they have with the gameplay and the design, because I was a game developer for almost a decade, so I'm going to try and give you my perspective on why they're committing so hard to this not multiple save file thing and the implications this may come from. Not that I'm justifying it, but it is something that kind of fits into that whole paradigm that they've set up for themselves. Now, from a technical standpoint, multiple save files would mean multiple pawns, and because they have this whole pawn system and rift system and summoning system, and they have all this pseudo multiplayer where you can hire pawns with pawn quests, you can kind of trade items with other characters, that sort of thing. If you have multiple save files, that is a multiplicative increase to the amount of pawns that are in the rift, because every time you make a new save file, you're adding another pawn that's going to be in the rift. So there's a question technically of where are those pawns going to be stored? Where is that going to go? Is that information going to be available? Are there going to be a lot of pawns that are left abandoned, don't get logged into? How do you load all pawns infinitely, or do you only load the pawn that is the most recently played? How many save files can you have, right? Like if you add 3 save files total, like they have for Monster Hunter Rise or Monster Hunter World or other Capcom games, you could say that then is that a 3x multiplier to all of the pawns in the rift, and does that cause actually any problems or not? It also means that if people have multiple save files, it's very likely that pawns will get abandoned, right? There will be a save file that sits there in eternity, because you're really only playing one save at a time. You'll switch back and forth between the two, but if you have multiple save files, do you have a save file that has a pawn that hasn't had its gear updated, that hasn't had its pawn quest updated, that isn't being logged into, isn't being interacted with, it's just there and it's dead, and it's just data that's sitting inside of the rift for no reason, that's kind of old and moldy? And there is actually an item in game that I think best encapsulates their perspective on this whole idea on how you should treat your characters and treat your playthroughs and your interaction with Dragon's Dogma 2, and that is the Arrow of Unmaking, which is a consumable arrow that you can purchase from a vendor in the game, that when you fire it, you will instantly kill anything that you shoot at. I haven't tried this against the story bosses, but everything else, if you shoot it and it hits the target, it will instantly delete that target. It will just kill them on the spot. However, they put some special implementation into this arrow so that when you fire it, it automatically and permanently saves the game for you, which means that you can't save scum the Arrow of Unmaking. You have to choose your target properly, fire it, and hope you connect, because when you fire, it will save the game and you won't be able to roll back from before when you hadn't fired the arrow. And I think the paradigm and design choice around this item is what they're going for with Dragon's Dogma 2, for better or for worse, and that they want you to really truly invest in a single playthrough and a single Arisen and a single pawn, and they want to put all your emphasis into that, and they give you options to change the vocation and the playstyle, to make edits to the visual appearance of both you and your pawn, and a lot of freedom to bring in other people's pawns and alter your player and your party composition on the fly dynamically, so that you can kind of create that freedom of choice without giving you multiple save files that you'll have to go through there. Now, it's no surprise that I am a big fan of Dragon's Dogma 1. I've always said that, and I do really enjoy Dragon's Dogma 2. So for me, the ability to delete your save file and start a new game from the main menu, which should have been there on launch, plus the ability to start a new game plus, where you can change your character visuals completely and your pawn's visuals, and you can either inherit your previous gear and equipment, or you can start over completely. It means that either if you're close to finishing the game, you can just finish the story, start a new run, or you can delete that file now and you can start a new run. That's enough for me personally. I think that is all I was looking for, because when I first started the game, I didn't like my character initially. I was very surprised with how the character ran and moved and looked in game, and I wanted to start over, but that option wasn't there, which just seemed erroneous. Like, it should shouldn't have been that way at all. But now with the ability to delete your save data from the main menu as it should be, and you can start over again if you want to, or you can start over from the story, I think that gives us a nice basis for playing the game the way it should be. And hopefully we start getting more and more content updates for them, more optimization passes, more performance updates that make the FPS and performance better for the game overall. I would love it if we got like a DLC option with a brand new island, or like a roguelike mode like we kind of got in the first game, like the Everfall, or even the Dark Island, where you could go and do kind of more advanced options. And I would love if they would put in an actual like proper challenge mode or hard mode for the game, because my biggest gripe with the game right now, after kind of finishing it and going into my second run and playing all the vocations, is that I just feel like there isn't enough challenge there. I want to see if they can do a mode built into the game that isn't self-imposed or done through mods, that actually makes the game super challenging, super difficult, and makes you bring everything you have to bear, like the perfect party composition, the perfect vocation, you maybe even the difficulty so high where you have to change vocation and slot in your augments to fit the situation you're going for, and you have to use weapons that are strong against the targets you're hunting. Like, you know you're going to run into a griffin, so you bring griffin bane weapons at the same time. I would love to have a difficulty option for that for this game, and it would unlock new experiences and new fun for the playthroughs that I'm continuing to do. But what do you think? Is this enough to sate your desires for the game? Are you someone who bought the game and refunded because you felt like the save files and the inability to remake a save was just not right for you? Or do you feel like there's still a lot more work to be done in the game? And if so, what changes would you like to see sooner rather than later being updated from the Capcom team? If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.